Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Jessica Abernathy, and with me today is Tricia Montgomery, and you are listening to Pets Are Family.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Welcome to Pets Are Family. And I'm just going to start today's episode by saying hello. And I've got a couple dogs with me today. So if we hear some barking or in the background, or like you see me falling over, you know what's going on. Welcome. Hi, Jessica. Hi, Adam.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome to our show.
Awesome.
Where everything goes awry. Some days I do feel like we're the Golden Girls, I swear, without the other two.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
You can join us, and you're all three combined, Adam. So I'm just going to start off. I got a chance to meet Adam from Philanthropy at a VMX show, which is, as we know, we talk about this, one of the largest veterinary conferences in the nation. And I got a contact saying, "Hey, this is who I am. Would love to say hello to you." And I happened to stop by his booth, and I have to say, I was so impressed by you, Adam. I sat there and I talked to you, and I was just so incredibly, not only impressed, but it was an honor to talk to you about your efforts and what you're doing regarding fundraising and helping people and helping pay things forward, and really dedicated to the cause of helping others and winning for and not from. I came back and I was so excited. I'm like, Jessica, we have to interview this guy. We had to get him on our podcast. And here we are. Adam, tell us a little bit more about you. And I want to know how Philanthropy really came to be.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Tricia. You're so sweet. Thank you, Jessica and Tricia, both for having me. I'm the one that's honored and humbled to even be having this conversation. For anybody who knows me, who's probably watching this for the first time and doesn't know about this Philanthropy journey, is probably surprised that I would even be on this pet cast. Not because I'm an ogre and don't love pets, but the true story is I actually, even though I had a Dalmatian as a child, his name was Sterling, and loved him. But over the years, as I became an old man, I became afraid of dogs. And I know all of your listeners are tempted to probably click off right now, but it has a better ending here. So I was afraid of dogs. And I don't know why. The idea of having a dog as a pet was probably the furthest thing from my mind. I had just lost my cat Kobe after 20 years, and so was grieving that loss. And my wife and I were newlyweds at the time. And being a newlywed, I wanted to make sure that I said, "Yes, ma'am," as much as possible. So when she said, "Honey, I think we need to get a dog," I said, "Yes, ma'am." And I said, "Well, let's just talk about it a little bit." As she should, right? As I should, right? So she was training me early. She knew this, right? So I agreed just to go look. Well, you know what that means, right? So she knew what was going to happen, but I didn't know. And so we went down to the Humane Society here locally where I live in Virginia. And there were all these dogs lined up in the cages, as you probably have seen. They were all really excited. I didn't know if they wanted to eat me or hug me, but I'm like, let's go past that one, that one, that one. We get to the end of the row, and in the corner, I first thought the cage was empty, but in the back of the corner was this little lump of fur, really quiet. I'm like, well, how harmful could that be, right? Okay, I guess I'll take a look at that one. So we arranged it, but thankfully, I'm thinking thankfully, there's a waiting list. Oh, no problem. So we'll just wait outside the room there where the meet and greet happens. And sure enough, the sweet dog kept coming up to us in the window of the door. And my wife said, honey, that's a sign right there. I'm like, well, let's not go that far, So sure enough, there's a long wait over the weekend. So this is great. So I know I'm off the hook because surely all these passionate pet parents are going to adopt this dog. I get a call Monday morning. "Mr. Spencer, she's yours." I'm sorry, you must be mistaken. No, there's a whole long list, right? "Nope, she's yours." So I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into? So I go down there, and my wife and I Monday, and we get there, and I'm trying to think of every excuse I can. Because again, I was not a dog lover. And so they say the magic words, "She's half price." And my wife knows I'm OCD about coupons, right? So she's laughing. She's like, now what are you going to say? So here I am, and I'm not kidding. This is true story, Jessica. True story, Tricia. I'm carrying this little lump of fur reluctantly out of the Humane Society because she's so scared and so frail, she couldn't walk by herself. So there's even a picture of me. My wife's like, "Hey, let me take a picture." So I get this most awkward picture you're like handing someone a baby who's never held a baby before, right? I mean, that's really awkward. I'm kind of holding the dog. He's kind of looking at me like, what in the world? Who's this weird guy, And it's really awkward picture, right? You wouldn't look at this and be like, oh, look at the love right there. It was like, it just was weird. So I'm carrying this little lump of fur out and I'm like, I don't want a dog. What am I doing? And I know I'm saying this in my head, but now I'm starting to say it out loud, which is not good. And as we're walking across the parking lot, I get towards the car and I'm like, I don't want a dog. I don't want a dog. And then it happened. I kid you not. I looked down at her sweet little eyes. I'm gonna get emotional now. But I looked down, I see her sweet little eyes, and I just said, I love you, and I'm gonna take care of you. And I kissed her head. And in that moment, my wife said, did you just tell the dog you loved it? I'm like, what just happened? You just kissed the dog?
Who are you?
It literally, ladies, it felt like an out-of-body experience. And I'm telling you, as clear as I know my last name, in that moment, Hazelnut, as we've affectionately named her, Hazelnut, literally changed my heart in that moment. And that's why I'm sitting here today, because of her and her journey, which we can talk a little bit more about. But she literally in that moment changed my heart. And my friends and family laugh at me because I'm now that crazy pet parent where, we've adopted another dog and I can't walk past the dog without stopping and talking to it. Doesn't mean if it means I'm going to be late to something, doesn't matter. I just have to stop and talk to that dog. So the guy who was afraid of dogs is now buying outfits for my dog. I have a dog on my lap when I'm driving around. I'm that guy, which is so crazy because that wasn't me. It's just the power of these precious blessings, of these furry blessings, I'd like to call them. It's just a power. They have this incredible gift to change hearts. And she took this crusty guy in. She chose me. Let's just be honest. I mean, the dog, she's so precious. Hazelnut, I believe, saved me. As much as I rescued her, I truly believe she saved me because she changed my heart.
I believe it.
Oh, Adam, first of all, I don't look at you and see the word crusty. First of all, I just have to say crusty. I see that. I see that crusty crab from SpongeBob SquarePants. But I love how you have opened up and said, I was afraid of dogs. You would be surprised at how many people are afraid of dogs because of something that has happened within their life as a child, or, whether it was,
An adult.
an adult. Yeah. And to say that, and then now to have taken that experience and turned that into something beautiful and positive for so many others is just absolutely incredible. And I love that story. I love also that you by trade are really what's called a fundraising expert. So can you tell me what that means? I mean, do you just the minute you ask for money, they give it to you? I'm asking for money. What is a fundraising expert? Because that's your background. Tell me about that.
Well, I've been a certified fundraising executive. It's called CFRE. And in the fundraising philanthropy world, also called development or advancement, one of the certifications that you can get. You don't have to have a certification to be a fundraiser, but it just gives the donors confidence. If you're someone who's looking to make, for example, let's say a gift from a non-cash asset like stocks or IRA or donor advised fund, or if you're doing your estate planning, you'll want to sit down with someone who you have some confidence in. And if you see those CFRE initials at the end of their title or their name, that usually means that they have to, by default, have served in this field for X amount of years and raised X amount of dollars and then pass a very grueling 4-hour exam. And that's meant to really test your knowledge and your skills in this industry, which is always changing in the laws and stuff like that. But it's something I'm proud of. I never entered into the industry of fundraising. I don't think anybody ever wakes up saying, I hope a fundraiser calls me today. My wife always picks on me. She says, I don't know how you do what you do. And honestly, ladies, for me, I love the relationship side of it. And the number one reason anyone ever gives to any charity, the reason why you or I give, whether it's Moose's March or Philanthropy or your local church or whatever it is, number one reason is actually not the mission. The number one reason anyone gives is to fulfill something within your own heart. And so I know you ladies are passionate. I give and passionate in memory of my cat. And so I give to my church because it's something that as an act of worship. Some people give because they've had a life experience and so they want to give to that cause that they're affiliated with. But it really starts there. And they're not going to give if they don't trust, if they don't believe the money is actually going to the mission. But it really starts with fulfilling what's in your heart. And, the charities and the causes that understand that really celebrate and honor the donor are the ones who really do great fundraising wise. I think oftentimes the reciprocal or the opposite is what takes place where there's a lot of pressure, and we've all gotten those phone calls. But I've just really prided myself in my career of 25 years of doing this in building those relationships. I don't ask people for money very much. I help many different worthy causes and serve in different roles in different organizations. But to me, it's always about touching the donor's heart and creating a way for them to also touch our mission. And then folks just give what they want to give and what they're able to give. And, if you're a fundraiser or you're a nonprofit raising money, I would just encourage you to find what the donor's passionate about. And it's okay to tell them that, the dollar handles, $100 will feed this many dogs, or $1,000 will rescue this many dogs. But at the end of the day, it's their money. That's why it's a gift. And so it's an opportunity to celebrate them. And that's kind of where philanthropy was sort of born out of that idea when I got thinking about, well, what's the number one thing that people care about? And it's pets. They're the universal language. It doesn't matter who you are, what your background is, your political preference, your religious preference. Dogs just have this way of breaking down all those barriers. And it's a universal language of love that everybody can embrace. And so, that was my background. And so it was really interesting when I heard about Hazelnut's story that her original family had to forfeit her because they couldn't afford her life-saving care. And we know that 1 in 3 dogs in America that are euthanized just because of economic hardship, so financial barrier. And that breaks my heart to know that. But thankfully, Hazelnut was one of the few who the veterinarian in this case decided to actually treat her pretty extensively and saved her life, and then donated her to the Humane Society. And so that stunned me. As a fundraising professional, I thought there's got to be a program out there to help pet parents, and there's got to be something there. And really coming at this from a brand new pet parent. And my cat was pretty self-sufficient in 25 years. And so there wasn't a lot of major expenses with Kobe. So this was new to me, that your dog would have this huge expense, and what a burden. Well, there's got to be something out there. And when I researched that, I was just stunned that what philanthropy does had not existed.
So it's more the why. I always look at terms of giving, because people are like, what am I giving to? But it's more the why of why you're giving, and you're touching their hearts. And I love that. And I love, the passion is just inside you, and it exudes. It really exudes. And how does it work? So if our pet parents are listening, and if we have many organizations that also listen to us, if they want to be part of the philanthropy journey, how does it work? Is there a cost associated with me as, say, Moose's March would sign up? How does it work?
Just to kind of unpack a little bit about what it is, everybody's heard of GoFundMe. There's 2,100 crowdfunding platforms that are in existence. And
oh my gosh, did you 2,100?
2,100. It was 1,500 when I first started researching this several years ago. It's now 2,100. And all of them are for-profit owned, which means they're not bound by any of the ethical standards that a nonprofit would be. And so if you're talking to somebody in one of those other for-profit organizations, your chances are you're not talking to someone who's a CFRE or someone who's bound by those ethics. And so they're motivated. I'm not going to say that they don't do good, but they're motivated by transactions, by money. And so what we've seen because of that is a huge amount of fraud and scams. It's very easy for someone to create one of those for-profit platforms, a crowdfunding campaign, and it all be 100% fake. And that was stunning to me. And I don't want to digress too much here, but one of the stories that was in the national media of a local politician who used one of those popular sites. And it was a military veteran who had a service dog who was dying and needed life-saving surgery.
I heard about that.
Remember about that? $30,000.
I'm not going to say the politician's name, but he has now no longer with it.
He's no longer, yes.
Yeah.
But he lied to the public. He lied to the veteran and said, I have a charity that helps pets. It would have taken less than 30 seconds on the IRS website to confirm that he does not have a charity. And then he raised the money through scores of people who cared about the cause, but then he stole the money. And the pet parent, the veteran, never saw the money. The dog ended up dying. And all of these donors who gave from their heart were lied to, were dishonest. And because there was nothing upfront proactively protecting these donors, the scam was hugely successful. And so I thought, from a fundraising perspective, well, why can't we create something? I just feel like fundraising profession should be run by fundraising professionals, right? If you wanted
Right.
to get surgery somewhere, your neighbor says, hey, I'm really good with a Swiss Army knife and I watch a lot of YouTube videos, right? That may be true. But if you go to your neighbor, you are not covered by any, protection at all, legal protection, right? But if you go to the hospital, chances are your doctor is certified and so on. So it's the same thing. Why can't there be a platform where donors can go and have 100% confidence that their gift is actually going to something that's real and our pet that's real and a real surgery and a real expense. And then when the money comes in, one of the unique things that we do is we send it directly to wherever the expense is. And so if we're raising money for a pet bill, we would send it directly to the veterinarian. And if we're raising money for charity, then the money goes directly to the charity. And so that's one of the things that we do, but we verify every single campaign that started. We call the pet parent and we call the veterinarian. That is the most popular types of campaigns. We do have individuals who raise money for charities and other organizations, but we verify every single campaign. And then when their money comes in again, we send it directly to where the expense is located. But the other beauty of being a nonprofit crowdfunding platform is that philanthropy, where we can issue that tax deduction credit. So if you're someone who is giving and you have to itemize and you really need that triple tax deduction, or maybe you want to give from a non-cash bucket, like a stock gift, you can click a button and make a stock gift towards a campaign. You can give from your donor advised fund or from an IRA. And none of those options are available for any of those for-profit crowdfunding platforms, because you have to be a 501c3 platform. So that's part of the innovation side of all this. That's a long answer to say it's free and anybody can use philanthropy. We created it to give it away and to help others. And we're not motivated by money. We're motivated by our mission. It literally just takes just a few minutes and to upload some basic information, and you can have a live campaign for any need. And I'll stop there because I get so excited about it. I keep talking here, but it's free. Any organization can do it. And let me also encourage folks who, I know Moose's March is something that you're passionate about. So for example, if someone is passionate about Moose's March and maybe they're just not in a position right now to give, but they want to do something to help, they can still give by going to Philanthropy, creating a philanthropy campaign specifically to bless the mission of Moose's March, and then share that out, so it's a way to give and invest.
Oh, Adam, I'm not speechless, but I'm speechless. I'm so blown away. I also love how you've cut out the risk with, and talking about that story, because that's a very real story. And the animal that was supposed to get the funds did not. And I think that happens so much more, that sometimes people now, in my opinion, I think that people are afraid to give sometimes because of all the scams that have happened. I also love the analogy of the Swiss Army knife, and because it is true, because I think it's so easy. Don't you agree, Jessica? It's so easy. Everybody's like, I'm going to go ahead and go on GoFundMe and create something, and then you don't know where the money's going. And I think that it's so important to have a trusted person, organization that is going to provide that coverage for you to understand that it is going to a worthy cause. I also love how you cut out the middleman. You've really cut out that organization or that individual, because now you're directly making sure and ensuring those funds go directly to what they say that they're going for. And I think that happens more and more. And I think that's why a lot of people do not give to larger organizations, especially in the animal welfare field, because they see so much of their funding going towards salaries and overhead costs and things like that. And it's not directly related to the animals and helping out the animals.
Well, I was going to say, a lot of people are more apt to giving to a non-for-profit than a for-profit, because a non-for-profit are, they know it's hard-earned money. You have to actually fund, you got to fundraise, you got to do all that stuff. And where a for-profit, they can get, they're getting paid their salaries. There's money behind it backing them up, where a non-for-profit, there isn't. So a lot of people are more geared towards that, I think that says a lot too.
Well, I can tell you right now, my only salary is I get a lot of licks and pets, and I get to pet my dog every day. And she reminds me, I say, this is your fault. I say with a smile, this is your fault. It wasn't for you. This would never happen. So that's the blessing I can get. I'll say this too. There's a lot of chatter around that, because I've seen some really just crazy salary numbers out there for some very popular national charities. we're volunteer driven, but we're slowly building our team. We do have to pay contractually for different services and different things. So we want to be the best at what we can do. I'm not going to say that one day that whoever's in this seat won't be paid, because it's a national charity. It's growing fast, but I can assure you, whatever that is, it'll be comparable to what it should be. And so it's not about making money. It's about advancing this mission. And I would just encourage you, it's okay for just the CEO of your local charity or the national charity that you care about. It's okay for them to be compensated. They should be. They're running a very important organization, and we don't want them to feel the financial burden, just like we don't want veterinarians to carry that financial burden.
Yeah.
We don't want pet parents to. So that's okay. But look at their $9.90, which is free and open to the public, and look at that on the IRS website, and you'll see how much they're making. And then you can decide, you know what? Is $100 million too much? Yeah, probably is. Is $50,000 too much? Probably not. But again, that's something that you can actually discern. And also look at what percentage of your donation goes directly to the cause. I mean, the healthy margin there is 10 to 20%. My wife and I, we give to charities, and our benchmark is 10%. Will we give to a charity that gleans 11%? Sure. Our sweet spot is 10%, and that's what it is for philanthropy. So 90 cents of every dollar that's donated goes directly to the mission. And that's a healthy, again, as you're looking at different causes, to do your homework. And not that you can't give by impulse, but if you're going to give a significant gift, definitely do your homework there.
I'm so glad you brought it up. I was CEO for Paul's Humane Society, and overhead costs are there. I mean, especially non-for-profit is a business. It's not a hobby. Whatever animal welfare or mental awareness or health or anything, there's so many non-for-profit organizations out there, and it does cost to run an organization. It just does. You've got overhead cost of staff. You may have the building, you may have electricity and all these things.
You got marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what people forget.
Yeah.
I mean, just because you're a non-for-profit doesn't mean you don't have to market. You have got to get your name out there. I mean, it's not like, bam, oh, my name's out there and everybody knows me. You know what I mean? It just doesn't happen overnight, and people forget that. You do have to spend money in order for people to get to know you.
However, the amount of money that you're spending and that overhead cost, and I love how you brought up the fact that X percentage, 90% of our funds go towards. So similarly with Mrs. March, 100% of our funds go towards funding Mrs. March and the awareness and the pet cancer test and everything that we're doing. And I think that's important. And so when you are donating on, noting on those websites, you can also go to GuideStar or Charity Navigator, and they'll also have those stats up there too. And you'll be able to see if they have a transparency seal of approval. But those 990s are really important. You can get those direct from the IRS website. I love that. And it's doing your homework. And I think we all get caught up in stories, and especially the story of the dog that's been hit on the side of the road, and you've got an animal welfare organization raising money, trying to save that animal. A lot of money goes towards that and the care of the surgeries and things such as that, but just make sure that you do your homework on that. And I think that's incredibly important.
I was like, cue Sarah McLaughlin right now. Not that we can, because YouTube won't let me put this up there if I do, but cue her. Everybody just have that earwig in your head now for the rest of their day. So,
In the Arms of an Angel just came into my head, and I'm not going to sing it because YouTube would flag me.
I'm like, cue it. There you go. Now it's stuck in your head. You just want to donate now. So there you go. That's a bit.
Darn you,
welcome.
Sarah McLaughlin. Thank you so much.
There you go. You don't have to sing it. Now it's stuck in your head.
I know. So tell me some of the organizations, and also I'm going to give a huge congratulations to you, Adam. And you recently won a very beautiful, an incredible grant through PetSmart Charities to help you further along these initiatives, and to receive, I'm going to step back, to receive a grant from PetSmart Charities of that volume and that amount. That says a lot for your organization. And I think when I saw that, whenever I approached your organization at VMX, I'm like, wow, okay. Because that is kind of like a stamp of approval. I hate to say that. PetSmart Charities is excellent, and shout out to the teams there. But so you guys have won that. So tell me about some of the organizations that may be part of philanthropy. And also I want to point out on the second part of that question is there's other funding platforms that we know about. What would differentiate you for that?
Well, thank you so much for mentioning PetSmart Charities. I mean, what a huge shot in the arm that is, especially being a new organization. Every day, hundreds of new charities are formed every day in America. And I just think back to many years ago, we got Hazelnut, and I remember waking up at 4 a.m. with this idea in my mind, and philanthropy, that word came to mind, and I thought, hey, that's got a ring to it. And so just to think about where we were, this is just an idea, and to take it from there and to where it is today. I remember sitting on my couch and I'd read about Amy Gilbert, CEO of PetSmart Charities, and I thought, wait, I bet she would really like this. I wonder how I could ever meet her. And this is before I even knew that VMX existed. And it was just a series of, I think, divine appointments, just like meeting Hazelnut and her rescuing us. And I met Dr. Stewart in Charlottesville and shared this idea with him, and he loved it. And then he invited me to come to VMX. And then there I met our Dr. Robin James with PetSmart Charities, and she was just wonderful. I thought, she's really, are they really going, we're just a brand new little charity here, and we got our makeshift brochures and stuff, and we're just trying to figure out how can we help this industry? And so it was a long conversation over many, many, many months and fleshing this out with them. And it meant so much, meant the world to have their endorsement. I did have the honor VMX to meet Amy Gilbert and thank her in person. And so that was really special. And to hear her say, philanthropy is the buzz around here, it was just awesome, and so I'm excited. It does hopefully validate in the minds of folks who are thinking, do I want to invest with my donor dollars in this new mission? They're going to be around. So hopefully that seeing a $200,000 grant from PetSmart Charity is hopefully confidence that we're doing something really special. And I think what they were really excited about was all those touch points. One, preventing and alleviating the suffering of pets. We know that PetSmart Charities has committed over $200 million over 5 years to try to address this crisis. And they see philanthropy as one of those, we have to triage this issue. And so philanthropy is just one more layer that can address that issue. So they love the innovative side of this. And when I first introduced this idea into the market, we were the first ones to ever form any kind of charity-owned and operated crowdfunding platform. It had never been done before. And that puzzled me for a while too. I thought, well, why not? And I just think the answer was, in the for-profit world, that's your motivation, and if you're doing something to make money, there's nothing wrong with that. But the ideas behind having to put extra measures of protection, proactive measures for donors, well, that costs money, it costs time. And I think if you're looking at it from the for-profit lens, that would be a huge discouragement, right? And so, but for me, coming at it from a nonprofit experience, it made perfect sense. Well, we need to have this. This is a solution that's desperately needed. And so since we introduced the idea, of course, there's others that have heard about it and have borrowed the idea and are fleshing it out in their own ways. And I would just say, listen, do your homework. Many of these are for-profit organizations, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they're software solutions. And some of them have added on a nonprofit arm to help kind of validate what they're doing. And that's okay. I wish them great success. I've met several of them, and do your homework is what I would encourage people. The difference with us, even from an organization standpoint, is when someone talks to us, for example, our Plan Giving, our Forever Legacy Society, they're talking to trained, certified fundraising executives. They're not talking to a software solution person. And that matters, especially if you're talking about charitable gift annuities and things that plan gifts that can produce income in your golden years of life, and just those important nuances. And so who we are, I think, is really important, and our why is important. I heard someone tell me, I was debating with someone about a certain, I'll call them competitor, a software company. And they said, well, this is their livelihood, Adam. And I said, well, I understand that, but I'm so glad that we're not motivated by that. We don't have to cut corners or do things squirrely because my livelihood isn't dependent on this. What is dependent on it are scores and scores and scores of pets who are suffering and need our help. And so that's what drives me, our mission, not money. And so I think that's really important. From a platform standpoint, even though others are emerging, one of the things that makes us really, really, really unique is that we are for any animal-related cause, for present, future, or past expenses. So you can still use our free philanthropy crowdfunding platform to raise money and get reimbursed for expenses you've already paid. Because part of this is removing that financial barrier, but also alleviating that financial burden. Because we know that 2/3 of millennials go into debt today for just how they live. We know that 50% of pet parents go into debt to pay for their pet care. And so we don't want you to have to carry that burden forever, because chances are, if you've gone into debt significantly, it's hurt your budget. You have some financial insecurity because of that vet bill you just went into debt for. If you can get that paid off when you have to go 6 months or maybe even 3 years later or 6 days later for follow-up care or more care, your
Wow.
chances are you're going to be more likely to proceed with that care and saving your pet from suffering or dying if you have the margins financially. And so I think that's a really important distinction. Now, we're the only ones that allow for that.
That's incredible.
That's huge.
That is
That's
huge.
huge.
Yeah. I didn't know that. And I had no idea, but that is absolutely, such a game changer for people. And
Yeah.
I think, again, that just sets you apart in every aspect. Of course, I think you're set apart anyway.
Bless your heart.
So if our audience wanted to know more about you, if they're, where do they go? How do they find out more about you? And how can they get involved?
Sure. Philanthropy.org. Philanthropy.org is our website. I think there's a QR code behind me. That wasn't on purpose. That actually made it look like I planned that. That was.
Are you sure
cool
about that? I think
I put these behind me because it's better than the messy office that's behind those banners. But that worked out pretty well. I try to brag my dog into coming in here.
I'm
Hazelnut.
holding my phone up now.
But she would actually. I'm wearing my favorite shirt, Hazelnut. So I carry her with me even when I'm not here. But philanthropy.org. And let me also say, if you love pets and you're like me, you don't really have the time maybe to look at every single campaign and drill down to all those. You can just make a gift directly, an unrestricted gift to be used where needed most. And you can even drill that down to, I just want to help cats, or I just want to help dogs. And one of the other beautiful things about philanthropy, in the beginning, it was about those emergency situations. But it's morphed into so much more than that. One of the stories that we give in the press release with PetSmart Charities is Jill, who gave us permission to share her story about Poppy. It was $165. That was it. $165 for arthritis medicine for Poppy. And, she talked about how Poppy saved her life as a widow and how much that meant to her. And she just cried. She said, "Thank you so much. Thank you to your donors. Thank you to Philanthropy for being here for my pets." And so, to be a hero today and change a pet's life, it doesn't have to be thousands of dollars. It might be $50. And so that barrier, the financial barrier, isn't always numerically huge. It could be small for you or me, but it could be really significant for that pet parent or for that pet, more importantly. And so I just encourage you to lean into the mission. And as I said earlier, if you're passionate about Moose's March or you're passionate about your local humane society, you can start a philanthropy campaign and raise money for them. Maybe you're in a situation where you just lost your pet and you're grieving that. Why not use philanthropy as a way to honor and tribute and memorial to your pet, or maybe your neighbor lost a pet. So there's all kinds of ways that you can utilize this platform to fulfill that something special in your own heart, with confidence, and knowing that your dollar, this is a trusted platform and it's going to where you want to go, and you get to feel good about that. And a little side note too, just an idea, why not do it from your pet? So Hazelnut is going to start a campaign, and Hazelnut's going to raise money for philanthropy. And so Hazelnut will invite all of the pets out there to join her in raising funds for such an important cause.
Oh my God, Adam, I love you. You know that you're on a pedestal with me. You're definitely,
Aww.
I love everything that you're doing. And I'm so glad that I met you when I was there. And I think it was the last day and I'm like, I've got to go. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go by and see this guy. And I was just so blown away by what you were doing. And I said this before, and I think Jessica is also part of your board now. I'm very excited about that. But I see great things. I really do. And I think you're doing things differently. And I think that it does come from your heart. And this is destined for big things. And why that is because it's about others. And it's I go back to wanting for and not from, that you're wanting for those organizations and those pets, the animals, because that's what it's really all about. They have no voice. And I just want to thank you for being with us today. I really just appreciate you. I love what you're doing, and we're behind you 100%. And our Pets or Family audience is just behind you. And so I think I'm excited to see where this goes, Adam, and I can't wait to watch you on this journey. We're honored to be part of it.
Thank you for your beautiful hearts and for the incredible investment you've made in this industry. Honestly, it's an honor to be with you and to have this platform to be able to introduce philanthropy to all your listeners. And so thank you so much for all that you do for pets every day. And you're both amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back at you.
Yeah, back at you. Well, we'll see you next time we have you on. We'll have you on again later in the year, I think, and we can follow up with how the year went.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I would love that.
All
Look forward
right.
to it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Pets Are Family. You can find us on all the channels now. Yes, all the channels now. So make sure you share us with your friends, your families, and your coworkers, and anybody that has a pet. Make sure you like us, give us your feedback, tell us if anything that you want us to talk about, all that fun stuff. You can reach me at Jessica at petsourfamily.net or Tricia at petsourfamily.net. Thank you for everything that you guys do, but make sure you like us, subscribe, check us out on YouTube. You can always see what we're up to. And we want to thank all of our sponsors, all of the people that support us. We love every one of you, and we can't thank you enough. And remember, check out Moose's March, moosesmarch.com, MOOSESMARCH.com. Come check us out. Talk to you guys soon. We'll see you next week. Bye.